Welcome to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today I welcome back Suzanne Woods Fisher. Suzanne is a beloved, award-winning author of over 40 best-selling books that span contemporary romance, Amish fiction, and heartfelt nonfiction. Known for her signature blend of warmth, wisdom, and wit, Suzanne has captured the hearts of readers through fan favorites like The Sweet Life, The Secret to Happiness, and Love on a Whim. Her storytelling brings to life the charming simplicity of Amish communities to the stirring journeys of modern women seeking purpose. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear more about the newest book giveaway for this month. Now, here's my conversation with Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. I am so happy to have you back on the Christian Romance Podcast. Thank you so much for coming back, and I can't wait to talk about this amazing book today.
Oh, my pleasure to be here, Kelly, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I cannot wait to get into this story. Let me just tell you. But why don't you, real quick, before we get started, just let our listeners know or remind our listeners a little bit about you. Let them know what kind of stories that you write and what kind of books you write, and just a little bit about your writing journey.
Well, I live out in California. I am a mother to 4 and a grandmother of many, many children, which keeps me young because it starts sort of exploding. And so I start shopping for Christmas right after January 1st just to make sure I get all set. But I have a love of writing that I have had for as long as I can remember. And I feel blessed enough that when I got out of college, I was a freelance writer for magazines for years and years while I was raising my kids. And then as they headed off to college was when I started book writing novels, and never dreaming, I never would have imagined the door would have opened quite as wide as it did. And I'm so grateful. And now mostly my books, the door kind of opened for me with Amish fiction. My grandfather was raised plain, not far from where you are, Kelly. And that's a little bit of where I just landed. And yet I have branched out into historical fiction, into contemporary fiction, and thoroughly enjoy that because I'm probably overblessed with an abundance of curiosity, like most writers. So it's fun to just expand and pursue things. And then that kind of brings me to this novel. This is called Capture the Moment, and is the first in the National Park Summer series. So it's kicking off a whole new series, which is so much fun. And there's a little bit of suspense in this. So this is the first time I've written a book that is kind of like leaning into some suspense, which is a very different style, but there's a lot of my kind of style of writing in this, which is sort of an outsider looking in. And I did that with the Amish. I've done that with my other contemporary series. And in a way, I've done that with this. And feel free to interrupt at any time because I don't want to go on and on if you have a question. But this is a story about a young woman named Kate Cunningham. And she's grown up back east in a super traditional family, kind of like the family that never changes their wallpaper and they're all academics, and she's not. She just never did well in school. She just has never fit in. She's finally found where she fits in, and that is as a zoo photographer. So she just has studied animals. She has really made her life knowing them, knowing the way their patterns are, their sounds, on and on. And one day a National Geographic editor comes along at the zoo, sees her photographing bears and says, if you think you can get a shot of this iconic bear in the Grand Teton National Park, I will take a look at it. And with that, Kate heads to the wilderness, convinced she can take all of her zoo photography and have it translate in the wild. And that's kind of the setup for the whole story.
I love it. It sounds amazing. It does sound like I love the start of I can already tell the little bit of suspense because right away she's like, oh, it's okay. I'm a zoo photographer. I'm going to go in the wilderness. I'm just going to do it, which I love her ambition, but I think it's a little bit naive because the wilderness in the Grand Teton National Park is probably extremely intimidating. First of all, I love that the setting is in the national parks or one of the national parks. I just absolutely love it. Have you gone to this specific park or one of the national parks to get like some of the research, or have you just in the past, like just for like a trip or a vacation?
Well, my husband and I took a special anniversary trip to the Grand Teton National Park, and this is where the idea kind of germinated. And I love this park. It is so beautiful. It's funny, it's not higher on people's buckets list. Yellowstone is, of course, which is not far from there, Glacier. But Grand Teton doesn't seem to, it's an incredible park. And frankly, it should be on everybody's bucket list because it's so unique. It's just a valley floor and then these soaring Tetons. And there's so much history to it, from the indigenous people to the time of the trappers coming through to the time of, there's a Mormon homesteads. And they tried to hang in there for, I don't think they even made it a decade, but their barns are still there. And it's probably one of the most photographed pictures of a barn in America. And there's just so much of that in Grand Teton, not to mention things like, it's the only national park with a airport inside it.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know. And it comes from, because it's evolving. It was there before it became a park. And J.D. Rockefeller had bought more and more land and then donated it to the government. So it expanded over time. It wasn't purchased all at one time. It was incremental. Things like Jenny Lake Lodge, which is just this charming place. If you ever have a special time in your life, it's worth breaking the bank for. And even just have a meal in the restaurant, which is just incredible food, incredible, Kelly. And then just these tall windows in front of the Tetons and things like that. Snake River and, Taggart Lake. And there's just so much to do and so many places to go and see. And whether you're old or young or family or horseback riding or hiking, or let's go to Kate. She's a wilderness photographer now, not realizing that she's competing with, I think this is true, the bear she is trying to get a picture of is one of the most famous bears ever. She's a grizzly bear. And she has, at the point of, they're trying to see if she's coming out of hibernation, there's probably 25 to 35 photographers staked out to watch her. And these are people that this is their livelihood. This is what they do. So here Kate comes along, and I don't mean to make her sound ditzy because she's not. She's trying really hard, but she just gets crowded out again, almost like in her family. She doesn't have a place to belong. And happily, there is a bear management ranger who kind of takes pity on her. He's a little bit jaded, he's a school teacher during the year, and he's a seasonal ranger. And he finally sort of helps her figure out a way to see if they can get a shot that the other photographers aren't taking of the bear as she emerges from hibernation, which she hasn't done yet. And what's happening though, and in between each chapter, and this is the suspense part of the book, I have one page in between the chapters, kind of an interlude, and it's through the eyes of a poacher. And this poacher, who is a incredibly skilled, high-end, like he knows what he is doing. He is after this bear for a trophy, and he wants a new living room rug. He's not a sloppy poacher. He knows what he's doing. So as Kate is advancing closer and closer, so is the poacher, little by little. So that's kind of the suspense of the story in who's going to win. They both want a shot at the bear. Pun. But
I was just going to say that's a perfect one. They want a shot at the bear. One wants a picture. The other one wants a literal shot.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I love it. Oh my gosh. It sounds amazing. And I can definitely see the hint of romance, but we will get to that.
Yeah.
But I love that you said about how like the Grand Teton, see, now you're making me want to go plan a trip there. My husband and I have talked about this because we live on the East Coast, so we're always like talking about doing a cross country trip, like renting a camper and then like kind of driving across and just experiencing that. We do have young kids, so it would have to be like probably in the summer or someplace, whenever my son is off school. But I just love that idea. I just love like the idea of just visiting the national parks and going out there and driving out there just to see our country is so beautiful. And there's so many neat places like that. And that's amazing. I didn't even know, like you said about this lodge. Oh, it sounds like such a wonderful place,
Your
especially with
kids
the
would love
food.
it. Your kids would love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, there's kayaking down the Snake River. There's the only thing I would warn you about, and this is just kind of national park, especially the ones that are in heavily, impacted by winter. Summer is the only time construction can happen.
Oh,
And you get into the worst jams
oh
because of
yeah.
all that construction going on. And that's at all the parks we've been to. It is summertime that they got to move fast and they got to work. And you just have to be sort of pack your patience because you are there with the construction crews, with every other mom who wants their kids to see. And if you can ever go in the shoulder seasons, try. That's worth even taking the kids out of school because it's just a whole different kind of experience for you. But that's just
Yeah.
my tip,
That's
my
a
pro tip.
I was going to say that's a wonderful tip. Especially I would imagine it'd probably be beautiful even in the fall to
Oh,
see like
yes.
all the different colors and in the mountainous regions, especially, the changing leaves and such.
There's
Oh,
lots of aspen trees in the valley. And so just think of those quaking aspens with the yellow kind of, oh my
oh,
goodness, gorgeous, just gorgeous.
gorgeous.
But it's a
Absolutely.
very special part of our country. And of course, if you're at Grand Teton, you could always go up to Yellowstone. That's like an hour and a half away.
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure. That's the place. We've definitely talked about Yellowstone. I think a friend of mine actually went to the even in California with the oak tree with the or not the
whales.
oak trees, the redwoods is just gorgeous. And that's my friend actually flew there for 1 year for her birthday a couple years ago. And she loved it. And they just planned a trip and they did that. And they were, just hanging out with the redwoods and just going around and the different places around there. And just even that, I feel like just the whole thing, it just sounds amazing. It really does.
There's 63 national parks, and the newest one is the Pinnacles, which is actually down in California, sort of in the central part, in between the coast and the valley. And that's where the condors were
Oh,
released, the endangered species. And that's so if you go there, you'll see them flying. And it's like every single one of these parks, and I love that there's more being added, are just such treasures for us. And it kind of brings me to what I love about writing about the national parks. I think it makes us so proud to be Americans. And we
mm,
need that so much right now. This is our national parks unite us. We all feel so proud of them and how they have been well cared for and preserved, and the people behind all the efforts to keep them in good shape and protected and all that. I just feel like this is good for us, all of us.
oh, I totally agree. Absolutely. And the land, it just is so beautiful. America really is a very beautiful country. And it's funny, my husband and I think he saw like on a TikTok video or it was some kind of like social media thing where there was a guy who is British and he's kind of like just funny. He's like a funny kind of influencer. And he was talking about how some people in Europe think that they can come to visit America and go from New York to Los
Yes.
Angeles in like a short period of time. Like I'm just going to go to New York and then the next day I'll go to LA and then we'll go Florida, and just travel like that. And the guy was like, America's huge. It is nothing like in Europe, which Europe is big too. Don't get me wrong, but he was just like making a joke about how it's so big and it's so vast. There's so much land and it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous here. And there's so many beautiful communities and such. And like you said about the national parks, absolutely. I absolutely love that. I think it's such a good point. And then one thing, so I did want to talk about before we get into who the ranger is that comes and helps Kate, because we got to hear about that. But I love that you touch on in this book that you touch on the poaching. And I can totally see how that can be a suspense thread because especially if he's very skilled and you're reading, like, say, even from his point of view or from that focused point of view, and you're like almost like, oh my gosh, he's like going to get this because it is a livelihood and it is something that, poachers absolutely will live for. Sometimes they grow up in that. But I love that you touch on the poaching aspect, which I like I was telling you before we started recording, that I was such like an advocate in my little 7-year-old self, like drawing posters like animals were here first and they should be, like save the animals. And, writing letters, literally wrote a letter to the president when I was 9, I think, about after watching Free Willy, like saying they need to free the whales, that they can't be kept in captivity. And I got a letter back. I could not believe it. But anyway, so the poaching aspect, but then also the conservation aspect of it. So did you want to talk about those themes a little bit, like how you kind of threaded that into this book?
Well, I want to just be clear that poaching is different from hunting, and I'm not making a statement about people who hunt for caring for their families, for ranchers who have livestock that they're protecting. This is not a comment about that at all. This is a comment about illegal poaching, where parts of an animal are sent overseas because they're aphrodisiacs, that kind of thing, and most of the animals left discarded. And it's just a terrible thing. It's terrible here. It's terrible in Africa. It's terrible anywhere in the world where animals are really abused for and taken, without any respect for whether it's a female, whether there's babies, it's just simply greed. So that's, I guess, my soapbox a little bit. And, I think a lot of the rangers' work is keeping track of poachers in the West, probably more there than other areas, but it is a big business and it's sad. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you made that differentiation, because hunting is very different. Hunting is also people's, some people live like in wooded places, especially the country and different things like that, and use that, like you said, to feed their family. And it's very, very different. Poaching is like you said, it's different. It's for different parts of the body. Sometimes it's just for the skin. Sometimes it's for the elephants, it's for their tusks and things like that. And the whole entire animal, and not to mention a lot of the ways that these animals are dealt across countries, is just extreme abuse. And it's horrible. So I love that you highlighted that. And then the rangers, the conservation too. Did you want to talk a little bit about that, as well as how the conservation efforts that maybe you came across in doing your research for this book?
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to just see the effort and care that the whole staff is of the national parks. There's so many different layers on it, the maintenance to the rangers, to the seasonal, to the, there's educational rangers. There's so many different parts of the national park system, but I just so appreciate what they do to protect the animals, have people enjoy them, but from a distance, let the animal be. It's sad how every year somebody gets gored by a bison, it's in Yellowstone. And it's just sort of like, I don't know, kind of sad to think we wouldn't even know some of these things, like let the animal be wild, let the wild be wild, and stay back, but appreciate who they are. So from the animals to just even staying on trails to litter, just being, really mindful of not leaving a footprint.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And most of the time, I feel like with those accidents where it is unfortunate if people get hurt, and sometimes it can just happen. But I've seen videos before where tourists are like not following, they're just doing their own thing, and they're getting so close, with children getting so close to the bison and like they're not following the rules. Don't get that close.
I know it's stressful for an animal. It's wrong to do that. We shouldn't be intruding in their life in the hopes that they don't intrude on ours either.
Yes.
So clean up.
I agree.
Keep your stuff high up in a tree, that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. I agree. So tell me, is this Grant the ranger that helps her?
Well, okay. So his name is Grant Cooper. He's actually a teacher through the year. He's a seasonal ranger who's actually skilled in bear management. So a lot of what he does is making sure people stay far away. They're not getting too close to the bears. They want to know where the bears are. Most of them are tagged, not all, but most. So they're highly aware. When you're traveling there, you see the rangers clumped together, making sure nobody's getting near a feeding grizzly and her babies and all. So that's a lot of what he does. And they call him Coop. He's a little bit jaded. He kind of comes with a little bit of back story that he's trying to kind of work through. And Kate has a boyfriend. So this isn't like a clean cut, they meet and fall in love by any means. He knows about her boyfriend. The boyfriend's calling all the time. She forgets to turn her phone off. The other photographers are so angry with her for a phone going off, in the quiet and things like that. But it's sort of a neat progression of their relationship as he helps her and she sort of helps soften him in a lot of ways, I think, because of just her just willingness to try, willingness to go after this and even look silly at times. They call her Zoo Girl. So all the other photographers make fun of her. She's really ostracized. And yet she sort of evolves. And as the story goes on, I love a love story. I love that. And you are a romance podcast, so I don't want to undermine that there's a lot of love stuff going on in this story. But I also love when a woman kind of figures this out for herself and she just comes into her own. And it's not because a handsome ranger shows up. She's really growing through this story. And I love that. I love that she's a different person by the end than at the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And yes, I totally agree. Like the love story is just beautiful. But what the best part about the love stories, in my opinion, no matter what the trope is when the two help each other to see something in themselves. And then especially within the books that we write with a Christian element to it, also help them to see and point them back to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
To point them to God for the real change, because that's where the real change occurs inside. Sometimes, but I love that it comes a lot of times from what the love story is, because this other person is like trying to foster something in you, right? Like trying to foster the change in the other person. But yeah, that's my favorite part too. I totally agree. Is her like coming into her own. She sounds really brave, like naively brave, yeah. Right? Like she's like, has, like you said, like a willingness to try, and she's willing to do it. She's a doer, and she doesn't seem to mind how she looks necessarily doing it. And then she starts to grow, it sounds like, through her experiences. And I love that. I love that she's like, hey, okay, this National Geographic said that they're gonna put me in the magazine or want to talk to me about it. I'm getting a picture of them. And she's just like, okay, let's do this. Show me how to do it. I love that she like jumps into it. Like I already love her.
She's very appealing, and what I get a kick out of is a lot of her inner monologue where she's realizing how in the zoo animals start to eat at the same time of day because that's when they're fed. So they're becoming kind of synchronized in the zoo. They become conditioned to the sounds of humans, things that are not at all true in the wild.
Oh, yeah.
And you are at the mercy of when an animal decides to show itself or not. And I think all of those little moments of it sounds realistic, but she doesn't know what she doesn't know. She just kind of is here she thinks she understands animals, but she really doesn't. And that's sort of a big part of it too. It is just interesting how they are so different in the wild. They don't have to rely on a feeder coming, and
oh yeah,
figure it out for themselves. Which brings me to the bear. So this bear is really a true story. This bear is named number 399, tagged when it was younger. One of the most famous bears in the world, grizzlies. She's one of the oldest mothers. She has had cubs. She's up into her late 20s. And a few years ago, she appeared out of hibernation with quadruplets, which is amazing because the grizzly cubs stay with the mother for 2+ years. And it is a lot to feed them, care for them, hunt for them, teach them skills to survive. So for an older mother to have these 4, and she did a fine job. She knows enough. She had learned a while ago, and I think she's had like 22 cubs. They haven't all survived, but she's had that many that they know of. So she knew to stay closer to the people in the roads because the male grizzlies, which will go after the baby cubs because they want to mate with the female and get back to business, she just started staying close to the roads. And I'm not saying, feet away, but just nearby where people were not far off. And because of that, she kept her cubs safe. She also taught them to look both ways before they crossed the road.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's just the neatest story. And I before I went to Grand Teton, I knew about 399. Oh, and Kelly, she's all over Jackson. I mean, anywhere you go, there are photographs of her, there's portraits of her, there's artwork, I think there's now a statue. I mean, she's just sort of this grizzly bear, and they are ferocious animals. I'm not undermining. You're talking an 800-pound animal that could tear you apart with its claws. And in fact, every year there's usually, I think I read 30 to 40 people will be attacked after crossing bear paths with a grizzly bear, whether they've surprised them. And I'm talking Alaska, and Yellowstone, and at least 2 to 3 die every year. So they are ferocious beasts you never want to come across. However, I think 399 showed a little bit of there's more to a bear than just a brutal, hungry animal. This is a mother and, a caretaker. And there's lots of amazing stories about her. Like there was one time she had a cub named Snowy, and he had sort of a little bit of a white face, and a car came and hit and run, killed it.
Aww.
And she stayed mourning, like wailing over his body. And I think that was the moment when she became sort of known to people as, oh, this is, you were mourning. You were really, truly, a creature was lamenting over the death of her baby. And then another time, she and a daughter she had, I think, triplets, and maybe her daughter had twins or whatever. And the daughter, grizzlies are usually pretty solitary animals, but this one, they saw the daughter take one of the cubs and raise it as their own, almost like they were sharing the responsibilities. Very unusual for them to do. I think it just shows they've been watching her so much. There's so much more to learn about bears. Yeah. But I just have loved learning about her, and I loved highlighting everything. And I have author notes in the back about her story. And
that's beautiful. I love that you include some of these notes about her, because I feel like, and to see that it almost humanizes her yes. motherly instincts a little bit, but then it also helps us understand like these instincts are in animals too. Elephants are very, very yes. similar yes. and very much family animals. Same with orcas, same with a lot of different animals. So I love that you show this in the bear, but with the also respecting their space, right? Like respecting yeah. her, she's in the wild, and yeah, that is amazing. Oh, I feel so bad. She was mourning over her baby. I could just like picture that.
I know.
That's just sad. I'm gonna have to look her up. I can't wait to look her up after we're done talking. I want to look up her story
about her, because I think he'll find it really a very special story.
Yes, for sure. I love that she's like older, and she's very intelligent and going near where the humans are, because knowing that the male grizzlies won't kind of come around there. So usually, and I feel like, they're more, or at least I've heard this, that bears are usually more aggressive when, the mom with the cubs, if you get in between the cubs, right? So she's just going to protect her young, but in just, them just foraging for food or something like that, it's not quite the same. Unless they feel, protected.
Trying to attack you. I think they
right.
don't want to surprise them. You don't want to threaten them in any way. And if they're hungry, you're in trouble. So,
yes.
Yeah, don't be stupid.
Yes. Don't be stupid.
Pound animal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do have bears. I live outside of Pittsburgh, like I was telling you, and we have like a ton of I live like in the woods, and we do have bears around here. There's definitely bears, not grizzly bears. So we have like smaller bears, brown bears, and black bears. But I've never seen one or anything like that. But we also live by a state park, and they usually go in the state park because the state park is pretty big. But yeah, people just, you leave them alone.
Coexisting. I mean,
That's
sometimes you
it.
just go in your backyard and stand still for a while and you realize there's a lot of animal life out here. There's a lot of birds, there's a lot of squirrels, they're just all over. And it's wonderful to appreciate and take a moment and pause because they are creatures, that God made, which kind of brings me to the Bible verse. I don't know
Oh,
if you
yes, yes. I was
know
going to
that.
ask you. Absolutely. Was there a Bible verse tied to the book?
Yeah, there's one that's kind of I love, and it's from Job 12:7-10. And this is God kind of lecturing Job a little bit. But he says, "But ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky and they will tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind."
Love it. It's so applicable too, to talk about the beauty, just sharing the beauty of God's work in the animal life, in the actual earth, and all of the wonderful national parks. And I mean, it's just so fitting because it's true. It really is. I mean, they declare his
The glory of
glory.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's
Diversity.
beautiful.
Yeah, we want to appreciate what he's done.
Absolutely. I remember reading when I first read Job, because it's long and it's a tough book, I feel
Yeah.
like, because he goes through so much, right? Job is like, oh, you're
Poor
feeling it. You're
Job.
feeling it for Job. But I remember a part very similar about the animal part. And God was saying, look at the stars in the sky. Look
Yeah.
at, like, he's just basically saying, like, who can say what this
Where were
is? Like,
you, buddy? Where were you when I made those?
yes, yes. Where were you when all this was created? Like, I made all of this. This is all creation. This is, and I just loved that, to think about it like that. And like you said, even just taking a step outside and just looking around you. Sometimes we get so busy and caught up in our life and not, a lot of times unintentionally, that it's hard to really take a look around and remember you are a wonderful creation. You personally, and this whole world is created in this perfect image that God, he looked at it and he said it was good. And, we have sin in the world and we have trouble, but, Jesus overcame the world so we can rejoice. But yes, I love that verse. Super fitting with this. I love it.
Good.
So capture the moment. So let the listeners know. So when, or where they can get a copy of it, where's the best place to get it, and where's the best place they can connect with you?
Well, the book will be releasing May 6th, so it'll be out hopefully in bookstores by then, but I think you can find it anywhere, your favorite retailer. I always like to encourage people to go to Baker Bookhouse because I think they're doing a really great job in providing books at 30% off, and free shipping usually applies. And but feel free to find it wherever you like. Go to your favorite, brick and mortar and ask for it if they don't have it. That's such a help to authors. And then to find me, I am at my website a lot. So you are welcome to go to www.suzannewoodsfisher.com. And there you'll find a way to email me. There's newsletter signups that are one of my top. It really is my top way of communicating with my readers, because I just enjoy so much that interaction. And so lots of good things. I try to always give my readers, sort of my subscribers, a first look or a first peek, or the heads up about a giveaway or contest before others hear about it too. So with that, I invite you to stop by, because it's something I really enjoy, is connecting with readers.
Absolutely. And I will definitely have those links. I always put the link to Baker Bookhouse too. I agree with you. I love how easy they make it to just order right from their site. They usually have wonderful discounts or deals. And I usually just put that link right in the show notes. So if you want to scroll down and get Suzanne's wonderful book, Capture the Moment, and absolutely visit her on her website. It's wonderful. And it's so important to get on the newsletter of your favorite authors, because it is just an easy, simple, but really meaningful way to connect, and very important. And authors, like Suzanne, they love to hear from you. So certainly get on her newsletter and visit her beautiful website. And thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you for writing this wonderful book. I cannot wait to read it. It looks absolutely beautiful. And I love all of the elements in it. Absolutely. I can't wait to see how you weave suspense in there, because you're so wonderful at the Amish books and also in the Sweet Life series. I can't wait to see how that sounds really neat about how you weave the suspense with the poacher kind of
There's
aspect
a
into
lot
it.
of twists and turns.
Yes.
So everything you think isn't quite the way it turns out. So anyway.
I love it. I love it. It sounds wonderful. And just thank you for being here. I love chatting with you.
You too, Kelly. You do a great job.
If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell to get notified of new episodes. We love blessing our listeners with exclusive interviews and, of course, amazing books. Each month, we host a themed book giveaway where you can win a selection of Christian romance novels and a few extra goodies, too. This month's theme is Royally in Love. We're giving away 5 swoon-worthy Christian romance books featuring crowns, courage, and Christ-centered love. From modern-day kingdoms to fantasy realms, these stories will sweep you off your feet in the best kind of fairy tale way. Whether you're listening as the episode drops or catching up later, no worries. You'll always find the link to the current giveaway on our website, ChristianRomancePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.